let's jump right into this explainer. We eat every single day, right? But how often do we actually stop and think about why we're eating what's on our plates? Today, we're going to unpack the incredibly diverse motivations behind our food choices. And we're going to do this by looking at a super relatable scenario: 4 friends just having lunch together. By peeking at their plates, we'll uncover some seriously profound ethical, environmental, and spiritual philosophies. So picture this. It's a typical school cafeteria. It's loud, the bell just rang, and 4 fronts, Michael, Maria, Oddish, and Lena, are sitting down to eat. As they unpack their lunches, Lena realizes something kind of surprising. She is literally the only person at the table eating meat today. This sparks a really fascinating conversation. She just asks them straight up, why do you guys choose the food you do? And honestly, their answers prove that what we eat is rarely just about taste. First up, let's look at care for animals and health. Let's start with Michael. Now, he actually comes from a family of meat eaters, but for him, going vegetarian became deeply personal. He avoids meat simply because he doesn't think it's fair to kill animals for our food. He's really saddened by the conditions these animals face. We're talking about incredibly cramped living spaces, the constant routine use of preventative antibiotics just to keep them going in those conditions, and ultimately, the reality of them living pretty unhappy lives before slaughter. So for Michael, this choice is completely rooted in empathy. Now, you might be wondering, does his family worry about him? For sure. They wonder if a growing student is getting all the right nutrients. But Michael has it totally figured out. He balances his diet perfectly. He doesn't just cut out meat. He cleverly substitutes it. He loads up on nutrient-dense plant-based sources, which are absolutely fantastic for vitamins and fiber, and he mixes in dairy products like milk and cheese to get those essential proteins, fats, and minerals. It's a really smart, health-conscious way to handle an ethical dilemma. Moving right along to environment and nonviolence. This brings us to Adesh. So while Michael is vegetarian, Adesh takes it a step further. He's vegan. That means a strict, absolute elimination of any product derived from an animal. No milk, no cheese, no eggs, not even honey. He eats exclusively plant-based foods because he believes using animals for human benefit in any way is fundamentally unethical. But his reasoning goes way deeper into his cultural and spiritual roots. You see, Adish is Hindu, and his guiding principle is that humans shouldn't use violence against any living being. Now, to be clear, Hinduism doesn't strictly forbid eating meat. It's not some universal rule for everyone. But Adish has personally interpreted his faith's core teachings of respecting nature and all forms of life to mean that harming animals just completely contradicts his spiritual beliefs. For him, a nonviolent plate is the ultimate expression of his faith. And his second major motivation? It's all about ecological awareness. Adish has looked at the staggering data on livestock farming, and it's intense. The mass breeding of animals requires a jaw-dropping amount of water and massive energy usage. Plus, it leads to widespread pollution and a huge increase in greenhouse gas emissions. So for Adish, being vegan is a win-win. It honors his religious commitment to nonviolence, and it's a daily, actionable way to protect our environment. Next, let's touch on willpower and spirituality. Meet Maria. She's also skipping meat today, but her reasons aren't about permanent ethical or environmental rules like the guys. Her choice is tied to religious and spiritual discipline. During specific times of the year, people of her faith temporarily give up certain foods. Why? Well, first, it's like a workout for her willpower, mastering those physical impulses. Second, keeping her meals light helps her focus way more on prayer and religious celebration. And third, feeling just a little hunger actually builds profound gratitude. It helps her deeply appreciate the abundance in her life and keep those who are less fortunate in her thoughts. Now, fasting is a super common practice all over the globe, but Maria is very clear about her boundaries. She practices moderate religious fasting, just temporarily avoiding certain things like meat to center her faith. She makes a really important distinction between this and more extreme fasts, where people might only eat bread or nothing at all for days. Maria doesn't think that extreme route is healthy or necessary for her spiritual growth. For her, it's all about mindfulness, not self-harm. And finally, let's talk about responsible and sustainable eating. That brings us right back to Lena, our lone meat eater at the table. Now, you might assume she's just eating whatever without much thought, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Lena and her family actually have a very strict ethical framework for their food. Yes, they eat meat and dairy, but they are absolutely meticulous about prioritizing local, organic, and fair trade options. They deliberately choose products that are produced responsibly and sustainably. So to Lena, eating meat doesn't mean tossing ethics out the window. It means showing respect for humans by demanding fair labor practices and respecting nature by supporting sustainable farming.
So your choices make a difference.
Think about it. Just sitting around one lunch table, we uncovered 4 totally valid, deeply personal, and completely different food philosophies. We saw Michael's empathy, Audesh's dedication to the planet and nonviolence, Maria's spiritual focus, and Lena's drive for sustainability. Nobody is eating thoughtlessly here. And that is the absolute core takeaway. Our choices affect both nature and our health. Whether your motivation is animal welfare, spiritual growth, or sustainable farming, every single choice you make creates a ripple effect. It impacts your body's fuel, and it literally shapes the global agricultural systems we rely on. It's a powerful daily vote for the kind of world we want to live in. As we wrap up this explainer, I know it's super easy to just run on autopilot, especially when you're starving. But next time you sit down to eat, I want you to really look down at your plate and ask yourself, what values does this meal represent? Are there hidden global impacts, ethical compromises, or maybe beautiful cultural traditions sitting right there in front of you? Thanks so much for joining me to explore the fascinating world behind our diets. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.